Today is Friday, May 23rd, 2014, and this is the beginning of an interview with Mr. Marvin Gackstetter at the Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Center. Mr. Gackstetter is 84 years old, having been born on June 15, 1930. My name is Julie Miley, Manuscripts Assistant at the Hayes Center, and I will be conducting this interview. Mr. Gackstetter, could you state for the record what war and branch of service you served in?
57th Armored Tank Division. And what was the other question?
Did you serve in, what war did you serve in, or what
Korean
time?
War.
Okay. Now, it was in the United States Army, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Now, when you were in the Army, were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, they drafted me.
Okay. How did they conduct the draft at that time? Do you remember? Was it by birth date or?
So many out of the county.
Oh, really?
Whenever the county come up and I missed the first bunch, that was my age, and about 3 months later they called me on the next bunch.
Okay. Where were you living at the time?
In Benton Township, over at Greytown, Ohio.
So that's in Ottawa County?
Yep.
Okay. How old were you? Do you remember when you went in?
21.
Oh. So were you considered old when you went over there?
Pardon?
Were you considered older when you went over?
No.
No? Because the last guy had said they called him Papa San because he was like 22 and they thought he was so old because he had all these little teenagers with him.
No, pretty everybody that I went with was all 21 then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Now, when they drafted you, were you automatically drafted into the Army?
Yeah.
Okay, because you couldn't choose. You wanted to go somewhere to a different area?
No, they sent me right straight to Fort Knox, Kentucky for 16 weeks. And then I come home in the middle of December for 2 weeks on delayed en route, and they sent me to Germany.
Okay. Do you remember any of your boot camp or basic training experiences? Do you remember? Was that sort of a shock for you?
Yeah. It was climbing up and down hill in Kentucky all the time.
Okay.
No matter which way you turned, you had to go up a grade of some kind.
What were you doing before you got drafted? Were you just working a job or were you in school?
Yeah, I was delivering gasoline and fuel oil for a Shell oil distributor out there at Greytown.
Oh, really? Okay.
Worked for Gackstetter.
Right.
Started working for him in 48, and this was 51 when they took me.
Okay. Any memorable experiences from your basic training? Any instructors you remember or anything that happened that sticks in your mind?
The only real thing that sticks in my mind, it was a real hot day, and we went out training or marching, doing something, and this one kid, I think he was up in the North Country somewhere in Michigan, and where it was cool, and he got overheated, and he come back into the barracks, and he got to the water fountain, which was warm water half the time, and he drank and he drank and he drank and he drank, and he got sick, and he laid down in his bed, and he started vomiting. And when he done that, they called the medics, and they come. And them darn nuts, when they loaded him up in the ambulance, they laid him on his back with his head up, and he vomited, and nothing come out, laid in his mouth, and he choked to death.
He died?
On the way to the hospital. Now, if they'd have tipped his head where it run out, he'd probably be alive yet today.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Serving your country, and that's all that happens. Oh my gosh. Oh. When you were in basic, were you able to keep in any contact with your family? Did you get letters, anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
They taught me not to trust the American Red Cross.
Really?
Yeah. They promised us anybody that donated a pint of blood would get a 3-day pass.
Okay.
So the whole gang lined up and we donated a pint of blood. When we got our strength back and everything, we went to sign up for that. The company commander says, "Oh no, nobody in this outfit gets a 3-day pass until after their training." See, so we never did get the 3-day pass.
Really?
No. But that's how they roped us into getting 100%, I guess, out of the company. See? So,
Never do that again, huh?
and I haven't never donated since.
Oh, goodness. So after your basic training, you said, 16 weeks?
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. You said you went directly over to Germany?
No, I come home.
Oh, that's right.
For
Your little furlough?
2 days, I think, or 2 weeks, something like
Okay.
that. Yeah, it was over Christmas of '51.
Okay. Were you married at the time?
No,
No, not yet. Okay. So then you went to Germany?
yeah.
What was your job? What was your station? What was your purpose over there?
Well, the purpose was Russian border patrol, is to be combat ready for that. See, if anything broke out.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Was that at Bremerhaven? That's where you landed?
What area of Germany was it?
I got off in the English Channel, off in the boat in the English Channel, at a little town called Bremen.
Okay.
And from there, they just moved us a short distance to an army camp. We stayed there for 3 days. I can't remember what the name of the town was, but some little country town where they had an army camp. And then they sent us to a camp in Baumholder, Germany. And that was up in the neighborhood of Frankfurt.
Okay.
And then we stayed there until they designated us what company to go to. And then they shipped us to, we always called it Mannheim, Germany, but there was a little town just outside the gate called Sonnhofen. And they sent us there, and that's where we joined in with the 2nd Armored Division.
Okay.
There was, I think at that time, there was seven of us from around here that was stayed together through basic training, and then was shipped overseas.
Really?
Yeah.
How big was your unit, or I don't know if you call it a squad, or that you worked with daily?
After we got over there?
Yeah.
Well, it was in a platoon, had 5 tanks, and in that 5 tanks, each one carried five men.
Okay.
There was the tank commander and a driver and an assistant driver and a gunner and a loader.
Okay. Now, what was your job?
When I first got there, I got signed as a gunner. And then, the last 6 months I was there, they start rotating the older guys back home, and then I went from gunner seat to tank commander seat.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
what kind of tanks did you drive?
M47.
Okay.
Started out with in basic training, we had the M4.
Okay.
Had a 60 millimeter cannon on it. Then when we got overseas, we had what they call the M26 that had a 80 millimeter cannon on it. And then when the new ones come was the M47 that had the 90 millimeter cannon on it. They kept going up, and that was what I stayed in until I come home.
Okay. That was the only difference, was the gun size on them, pretty much?
Well, no, and the motor size, the M4 and the M6 or 26, they was what they called a water-cooled engine. Had a radiator where you had a water pump and that and everything. And then when the 47s come through, that was an air-cooled engine modified from an airplane engine.
Really?
Yeah. Two great big old fans on the top of the motor that blow the heat up on it.
So did it take some time to get used to the new ones, or it was pretty much?
No, the new ones was easier. They had automatic transmissions. The other ones had stick shift.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. When you come to a hill with a stick shift, you had to put it in reverse. See, and as you got going,
Really?
you would hit the accelerators instead of the brakes, because the brakes would get hot and go out, and you'd be freewheeling that. And that the same way with the 47. If the hill was steep enough, then you put it in reverse, and whenever it got going too fast, you just hit the accelerator, and then she would slow her down.
Wow.
Would you do that with a car? And
I was just thinking that. I'm like, I don't know how that would work with a car today. Did you, when you were patrolling the borders, were you in contact with any of the native citizens or anything?
Never seen a foreigner, or a Russian.
Yeah.
All the while I was there, but I don't really know if we went on border patrol. But every now and then they'd send us out in the woods or in the forest for camping overnight or maybe for a week. But when they said border patrol, I can't remember where they take us. We had to load our tanks up on a train, and in that battalion that I was in, there was 72 tanks, I think, altogether. And we was in A company, the first platoon, and the first tank.
Okay.
So we had the train would back in with flat cars to the loading dock. So that first tank that we was on had to go 72 flat cars to the front.
You had to drive that thing on there like that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And you hung over. You had to, when you finally got to the last car where you were supposed to stop, you had to be perfect because there was a couple tunnels we had to go through. And if you was too far off to the one side, you would rub, see.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That would make me nervous.
Yeah.
So did you see any combat or anything while you were over there?
No.
Okay. I was wondering.
Combat is a duffel bag. Carrying that around.
That's rough. What'd you guys do during, if you had any downtime? Were you able to go and see any of the sites or anything like that?
Yeah, that was like a big vacation over there, really. We had to either attend a class or go down to the motor pool and work on the tanks, clean them up and grease them and get them ready to go to take off with. But when it come 4 o'clock at night or 4:30, then it was chow time. Everybody would head back to the barracks, get cleaned up, and go over to the mess hall. Then after that, if you was lucky enough and you wanted to go to town to shop or look around or have a few beers, then you signed up for bed check pass. Bed check pass always was like from 7 o'clock at night until 11.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at 10:30 was lights out. 11 o'clock was bed check, and if you had a overnight pass, you had to be in that bed by 11 o'clock.
Ah, they came around and checked.
Yeah.
Or
Did you have any buddies over there that you still keep in contact with? Or anybody that you used to?
I used to. A kid by the name of Noel Heckbarth in Cokato, Minnesota. I used to keep in touch with him, but the last 10 years I haven't heard from him.
he's passed on, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Looking back at your experience, do you think would you do it again?
Yeah, no one would. That's the best part about being drafted. If you knew when you went in what you don't know when you come out, you'd probably stay 10, 20 years. But with me, I was drafted in August of '51, and I had never left home, been away from home without my parents or a member of the family all my life, in the whole 21 years. And then when I got in the Army, that's the first time I'd ever been away from home.
Okay.
And it wasn't, going to Fort Knox, that wasn't too bad because you was allowed a weekend pass, see, where you could leave like Friday night and be back at a certain time Monday morning.
Oh.
And you wasn't supposed to go any further than 50 miles from camp.
Okay.
But we'd go into the little town of Elizabethtown, I think it was called, in Kentucky, and rent a car. And we'd head for Toledo, 150 or 170 miles from camp. But I think when I was in basic training, see, if you got back late, then they counted you as AWOL. And I don't know why,
Oh my.
but there was 5 of us. We took off. and come home. And we all 5 was late getting back. I was the only one that got credit for being AWOL for 1 day. See?
Really?
Yeah, that's down in my records, AWOL. Yeah. And I don't know, well, one old car that we rented wasn't supposed to go any further than Fort Knott or Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
And we took it home and burnt the engine up on it on the way back, and then we had to get a ride from some town in Indiana, I forget which it was, into camp, and that's why we was late.
Oh.
So the punishment was clean garbage cans for 2 nights. And so instead of being able to go to the EM club or something like that, go over to the mess hall and scrub garbage cans with steel wool.
Oh my God.
He was in Switzerland too.
Okay.
Did you tell a vacation?
That was, she's talking about basic training now.
Yeah.
But don't forget to tell.
So did you serve anywhere besides Germany then?
No.
No, but you said you went. But when you were on leave, you went into Switzerland.
Yeah, this one buddy of mine that I never got in touch with him after he got out of the Army, but he lived in California, and he was born and raised in Luzerne, Switzerland.
Really?
And when he was something like 10 years old, his folks and sister, he only had one sister, they moved to California. They immigrated in. And while we was in camp, he spent 14 months in Korea. And when he come back to the States, he couldn't hack the spit and polish business in the States, so he volunteered to come over to finish out his time into Germany. And that's where I met him. And buddying up with him, he talked me into, I come home in August, and it was in June of 52, or 53. Yeah, June of 53, he talked me into going to Luzerne to meet with his mother and his sister. They had come from California, so we went there. And he says, I said to him, I can't go. It's the middle of the month. He wanted to go, and I said, I ain't got no money. I ain't got but $4 or $5 left, for payday. He says, if you got $5, he says, you'll have change when you come back. So the $5 took us a round trip ticket, and all the drinking we wanted to do was free because his relatives lived there in town, and they'd take us over to the bar at night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And them was quite the bars over in Switzerland. The only female allowed in there was the barmaid. No, you couldn't bring a girlfriend in or a sister or brother. It was all strictly men. And they'd sit there and eat cold. They'd come out with a big plate full of lunch meats on it and pickles and onions and set it down, and then you sit eat and drink beer.
Didn't do any skiing over there?
Yeah.
Did you?
Any skiing?
Skiing?
No.
Okay. I know my dad, did a tour then after Vietnam and got into Switzerland. He tried some skiing. So.
But
yeah, a lot of slope.
Oh yeah.
This town of Luzerne is at the foot of the Alps, because down here is like a river, and that doggone river got to be 10, 15 feet deep. The wood walk bridge, you didn't find that picture, did you? Where the walk bridge was, you look down, you could see the stones on the bottom of the river. It was that clean. And that was, they claimed fresh water coming from the snow off the mountains. But that was the biggest adventure over in Germany, the price.
Yeah.
So you got paid, like I said, in American money, and then you turned it into script. Then when you went to town, you had to head with the German marks, to spend. Well, a $5 bill of our money, or our script, that would buy you $20 worth of German money, German, well, for $5, I think it was, you got 21 marks.
Okay.
And a mark was equal to $1. Like if you went into a restaurant to eat, $1 or 1 mark, 37 pfennig, what they called the Wiener Schnitzel. Had a nice side of dish or plate of spaghetti, home fried potatoes or a baked potato, whatever way, mashed, whatever way you wanted it, and a glass of beer.
With everything, right?
That was the main drink over there because water wasn't really purified. They had out in the yard next to the barracks a big, like a teepee, or A-frame, and a canvas bag hanging in there, and they filled that with water and then throw a bunch of chlorine tablets in it to purify the water. And then you drank that if you wanted water.
Yeah.
And it was always outside temperature.
Lukewarm, whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Beer sounds better, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. When you were over there, did you keep like a diary or anything like that?
No.
No?
Just
Okay.
whenever you seen something that you looked interesting and you had the camera handy, you'd take a picture.
Okay. Did you have a camera over there?
Yeah.
Are those yours? Okay.
I went to the PX one day and they had a movie camera in there. And that movie camera looked just kind of interesting to me. Mm-hmm. So I was talking to the clerk there. They wanted $60 for this movie camera. See? And it had a little magazine in there. You didn't have to rewind the film. You pulled the magazine out and put a new one in. And it took 50 feet. So while I was standing there, a guy tapped me on the shoulder. He says, "You really interested in that?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "I got one that I'll sell you for $40. And he says, "It's just like new, but the meter on it that tells you how many feet you took," he says, "don't work." And he says, "It's still under warranty. If you ain't in a hurry for it, you can send it back to the States to get it fixed." Mm-hmm. So I said, "Okay." And he says, he used it. He says, the meters really don't mean nothing because if you listen, you can hear when it gets empty, and then you tip it, it makes a buzzing noise, and then you pull the magazine out, tip it over, and do the other 25 feet. And then when it buzzes again, you take it out, put a new one in. So I bought it from him for $40. So then I had it and just wasn't satisfied, and I took it over to PX and told him what was wrong, and said, "If you give us 10 days, we can send it in and get it fixed." And I said, "Well, yeah, you can have it for 10 days. So they did. They sent it in, and it cost me $2, I think, to get it fixed, and they shipped it here to the States and fixed it.
So you used it then when you were over there?
Yeah.
Quite a bit?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Tell them about the cuckoo clocks and the 100-day clocks. And
Well, everything was cheap, and they sent, how many was it? I think I sent Dorothy one, and my sister a 400-day clock, and she wanted a 400-day clock and a cuckoo clock. That's the way it was. Well, I went in town, and if you hit the right store, they packaged it and shipped it home for you. All you do had to pay the bill. So I sent her a 400-day clock home, and she got hers about the same time my sister did, but my sister's globe was broke when it got there.
Okay.
Got home. So she takes it into Osterman and Levy in Toledo. It used to be right side of the old Titke store on Summit Street.
Okay.
Took it in there, showed him what she had, and he says, "Well, we can get you a new globe for that." It cost her $30 or $40 for the globe, and it only cost me $20 for the whole darn lamp and sending it home.
Oh my
the clock.
I still got the 2 cuckoo clocks hanging on the wall.
Well, I sent one home to my mother and one to my sister, and then I got both of them at home now.
And the cuckoo clock.
Yeah.
That's cute. That's a good
But things like that's how we spent most of our time in the weekends. See?
Just around town and going into the stores. Do you remember your last day when you were done with the military, when they kind of let you go?
Yeah, I had the damnedest backache here ever was. I couldn't even carry my duffel bag. No, that was, I had it right across the back, and it ended up I had that backache until what, 1960 when I got operated on in that neighborhood, or 90. I think it was in 1990 they operated on that backbone.
How many days did it take you on that boat?
That was really a deal. That boat, the Cullens, I guess it was, that I went over on, we're out there in the middle of the ocean, and that's a wonderful trip. If I ever went back to Germany again, I'd rather take the boat than I would the airplane.
Really?
Yeah. It's so relaxing that you get out there, you can't see nothing but seagulls. And them seagulls follow you from coast to coast. You know, they follow the ship. When we get out there, one of the sailors on there come up and they said, "You got any idea what direction we're going?" Because we were supposed to be going east, you see. Because they called it the Far Eastern Command that we was serving. Supposed to be going east. No, you ain't going east, you're going west. That means coming back home. No, you ain't going to go back home. He says, what it is, we're running 10 days or 15 days ahead of schedule. So the captain just sets course, and you keep making a circle, around and around and around.
So you're just hanging out in the ocean?
Yeah, right out in the middle of the ocean, and you can't tell that because you can't see no land or anything, only them seagulls following you, and maybe a whale once in a while jumping around, see. So, and that'll also show you and prove to you that the world is round, because we're sitting up there on the deck, and this sailor says, "Now if you want to see that the world is round, watch right over there. See that gray streak? Kind of a gray curve in the sky. Yeah. Well, that's a steamship coming. He's coming up over the horizon. See? And sure enough, that kept getting closer and closer and closer, and pretty soon you could see the ship.
Really?
And they claim that, like them sailors tell you, that you only got straight vision for 20 miles. You know, and that's when the world starts
to curve.
Yeah, starts curving every 20 miles or in 20 miles. See? So I don't know, but that's what he told us there, and you could see it when that ship come up and made the hump.
How many days did it take you to get home?
It took 21 days to go across. Using them up, but coming home it only took something like 14.
Yeah.
12 or 14.
Okay.
And that was the next best sight, because about 8 o'clock at night, 9 it was getting dark, and everybody goes up on deck watching for the lights, and pretty soon you see a light blinking. That was the light on top of the Empire State Building, he said, blinking. And then before it got too dark, you could see the vision of the Statue of Liberty, and then we had to anchor out in the harbor because there was no room for us to come in and dock until the next day.
Oh, so they sat you out there even longer, huh?
Yeah. But then you can see land and you got a chance, even if you can't swim.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Did anybody know you were coming home? Did you let your parents know or anything?
Yeah, but not exactly day, because
you didn't know.
Nobody knew what time that boat would ship in. But as soon as we hit land, I called home and told them that I was in New York.
Okay. Because a couple of them, it seems like the World War II guys, they just show up on the doorstep, and this one guy said his mom just fainted because he'd been gone for 3 or 4 years, and there he is. So I'm like, tell your mom you're coming.
Yeah.
So that's good. So were you immediately discharged when you got back, or were you in there for a few more weeks?
You had to make the same route that you did when you went in. We left Fort Knox, and we come home, and from Fort Knox they sent us to Fort Meade, Maryland.
Okay.
Or from furlough when we spent at home. Then when it was time to go back, you had to report in at Fort Meade, Maryland, and then we stayed there to I don't know, maybe about a week. They processed this. Whenever they didn't know anything else to do when you was in the Army, they give you a shot. They give you a shot. Line up, go get a shot. What's that for? What do you care what it's for? You got to have it. Bang. And towards last over Germany, they didn't even take the needle anymore. They had a hammer-like thing. They just, boom, like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Get you guys through this.
As you're going through, you had to have your shirt sleeve up, and then right in here on the meaty part of your
Yeah.
shoulder, they whack you one, and it's just like a quick mosquito bite, and that was about all that was to it.
Huh.
Then the next guy, and they didn't bother cleaning that end off or anything. They just, whatever was you got out of me, you're going to get too.
What are they all?
They'd be some trouble today if they did that. Oh my gosh.
What's that shot for? What do you care? You got to have it. Okay, and that was the way we went in and when we come out. Then from Fort Meade, Maryland, they sent me to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. That's where I got discharged.
Okay.
In New Jersey. So from New Jersey, there was a guy, different like taxi cab drivers lined up out there by the gate waiting to catch the GIs. Where are you going? Where are you going? Well, there was four of us going to Cleveland, and one, I was the only one who wanted to go to Toledo, see, but the other four wanted to go to Cleveland. Well, if all five of you go to Cleveland, I'll take you there for $20, see, from Fort Meade, or Camp Kilmer, New Jersey to Cleveland. And he says, I'll have you quicker than any airplane can get you there, or any train or any bus. Okay, we took him up on that. See? And he says, what you can do when you get to Cleveland and you got to go to Toledo, I'll take and let you off at the Greyhound bus station. So he did. So gets to Cleveland, gets into the bus station, run up. There was a Greyhound bus stop. They're parked out there, and the driver's standing inside of it. And I says, where can I get a ticket to get on this bus to go to Toledo? He says, you can't. He says, ticket office is closed right now. And I says, I want to get to Toledo. See, well, get your back end in there, he says. And he grabbed my duffel bag and he threw it in the side compartment and shut it. I climbs in the bus on the inside, and away we went. And he had what he called a milk route. He'd stop at every little town he'd come to and leave the Cleveland paper off or newspaper off, and then go on to the next one. And I live 8 miles from a little town called Elmore, and 8 miles from a little town called Oak Harbor. He stopped in Oak Harbor, left off the newspapers. Such a hurry to get home, and dummy and me, I should have got out when I got to Oak Harbor, well, Port Clinton. That's where I bought my ticket, the Greyhound bus station in Port Clinton. That's where I should have got out and hired a taxi cab to take me home. Then I could have surprised the folks.
Yeah.
But instead, I ride with him and we get to this little town of Elmore. That's another like 8 miles from home. I could have got out there and caught a ride with my dad's boss that he was working for to take me home, because it was like 6 o'clock in the morning and he was getting up already to go to work. So I could have got a ride down. No, I'm going to Toledo. So I went to Toledo.
Oh my God.
At the Greyhound bus station and called my brother-in-law to come and get me. I got him up. And he come. I had to sit there about 15, 20 minutes till he got there. And
That's not too bad.
Then he took me home.
Oh my gosh. You took the long way home, for sure.
That's when you get excited and can't think, all I had in mind, I'm going home.
Yep, I'm just getting home.
Yep, and I made it home that day.
You'd have thought they'd have paid his fare. The Army.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. So what'd you do when you got back home? When you got back into civilian life?
Loafed around for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. Then went back to the same job that I had when I left.
Okay. And did you stay with that job?
Stayed with it for 8 years altogether, I think it was. And then we got married, we got married shortly after I come home.
Okay.
November.
I come home in August and got married in November.
Okay.
And then I rented the house when we got married from the boss that I was working for. And then in 1958, see, I started in 48.
For Gansky.
Yeah, 48 for him, and then 2 years off, 6 years of actual working for him, and then I quit and went to work at Toledo at the Golf Oil Company.
Okay. You had kids?
5 of them.
Wow. That's good. Any of them have served in the military after you did?
Yeah, my one boy.
Kevin,
Okay.
one picture. Navy.
Okay. Let's see. You belong to any of the veteran organizations? VFW, American Legion, anything like that?
No.
No?
We go, but
Okay. Okay. What are your feelings on the Korean War being, some people calling it a police action or just a conflict? What do you...
I really can't say anything for it or against it.
Okay.
Because where I went, there was no nothing that bothered you except of being away from home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know there's varying opinions on it, but a war's a war, I think.
It's just like that kid that I met up with from California, spent 14 months in Korea, and he never complained about it. He never got hurt or anything, but he spent time over there. But he did mention, he says it was kind of a foolish war because nothing was really accomplished.
Okay.
And just like now, yet North Korea and South Korea still can't get along.
Exactly. Okay. Well, anything I didn't cover or ask you that you think you want to add?
The only thing is that I could add, it was darn cheap living if you had to pay your way through when you was over in Germany, because there were things was about 4 to 1.
Wow, that's just amazing. Did you have the GI Bill available to you? Did you do anything with that?
No.
No? Okay. I know some do, some don't, so I'm kind of checking on that too.
No, I was eligible for it, but
Now, somebody said you could buy a house with it. Were you able to?
no.
I always thought it was just for college, but
I don't know if we could have built or borrowed money on the house or what, but back then, it don't sound possible now. I was working at a job paying $1 an hour, and we went in debt 16,000, wasn't it?
15 or 16.
Around $15,000 and built a new house, and paid for that on that job,
really?
and raised a couple kids.
You got to know how to budget,
Wow.
pay off the principal.
She worked 5 months after we got married, and then she was pregnant with Scotty there, and she worked at Rossford Ordnance, and
Okay.
but
They
during that time we had to take and pay $45 a month rent, wasn't it?
But it's all a matter of how you're being conservative, and like I said, I try to put all I could on the principal to get it down. I keep telling my kids that,
Yeah.
to do that.
Okay.
Because you grew up in the Depression, you didn't have,
You knew what
on the
to.
farm we didn't have running water, TVs, telephones,
That makes a difference.
computers,
All the
iPads.
fancies.
Whole
All
change
right.
of world now.
It is.
I don't know if it's for the better or not, because look at all the violence from the computers.
One thing that was
You never
interesting when I was
Sure.
overseas, well, you can see the barracks here. Well, right here's the street,
Okay.
and over here, when I got there, it was just finishing up building the army camp there in Mannheim, Germany. Most of the old guys on here, they reorganized it when they got there, and everything was brand new, and they didn't have no furnace for this. And guess how they heated these buildings? It was about, I'm going to say 10 of these buildings altogether that they had to heat, plus the office headquarters. Over here on the railroad siding, they parked where they had was going to build the furnace room, the boiler room, whatever you want to call it. They parked the steam engine train there, and there was a crew stayed in it. It wasn't American soldiers; it was German men that operated that engine, and they kept that fire and pumped steam to all of our barracks and kept them heated that way.
That's how they heated that.
Wow. The whole winter of, the remaining winter February of 52 is when I got over there. And they finished out that winter of 52, in 52 until like July, where we didn't need no more heat with that steam engine. By the next fall, then they had the boiler room built.
Nowadays they wouldn't put up with that.
No. Wow.
The good times and the bad.
Right. All right. Well, what do you think? You think you're done?
Mm-hmm.
I think you did good.
That's about all I can think
All right. Sounds good.
The scary part was when we take this ship that here, and we're coming into the English Channel. If you're up on deck, we went right past what you heard of it, the White Cliffs of Dover.
Oh, yeah.
They're beautiful. And it's just as pretty white as that building, but the shape of the rock and everything. And everybody on that, there's 5,000 of us guys on that ship.
Did they all go to one side?
On one side, and the boat tipped.
Yeah.
See? And when you wanted to go back the other, you had to walk uphill. It was scary, you see. But then they said, I think maybe it was partially tried to get the boat leveled out again. The guy says, if you want to see something, the captain that's going to take us up the channel, because there's still sunken battleships that they got to zigzag around. He's going to come out, the special captain, to pilot the boat through the English Channel. So when we went to go to see where that boat was coming, you had to walk uphill. And then it's kind of half of us, and the old ship come back to normal. But
Like all the
it wasn't real steep, but you could tell that you was going uphill. That it was
my
leaning.
gosh.
Must have been a better boat. Huh?
And the waves was big enough there in the channel that this boat that he come out in had a canopy over the top of it, like wood over the top. And at times you couldn't see him. He's coming through the water instead of over it. The wave would
Oh, my
go
gosh.
right on. He got upside of us, and then he comes up the rope ladder and went to the captain's quarters and piloted the boat in. Took her in, put her up the dock.
And he had his 25th wedding anniversary at the Twin Towers.
Oh,
My daughter used to be a designer in New York for Ralph Lauren.
okay.
And we went in the Statue of Liberty.
Oh,
And see, when we loaded the boat, or when we got on there, you got this big old duffel bag with all your clothes, everything that they issued, your extra shoes and underwear, the whole works that they had packed in there. And then anything personal that you had from home, you was wanted to take along, like your razor and stuff like that, you had in a little handbag that you kept with you.
okay.
So when you got to the certain spot at the dock in New York, you took that duffel bag and you throwed it in a net. And it had this big net laying on the ground. You throwed it in there. Then when everybody was on, a crane hooks onto that, and one big ball brings it up and drops it down into a hole.
Wow.
Well, then it's still, they don't unload the net. They leave the net with it. And then when you get over to Germany, they reach down there and hook onto that again, and they bring that out and they set it out there in the dock. Well, then you're right close to a big warehouse or something. I don't know what the heck it was, but anyhow, everybody's name has got to be painted on the bag. So I got that name painted on the bag, Gackstetter. So I go in there and look, walk down the G line, no bag. Turn around and back. Made 4 or 5 trips back and forth. Pretty soon this captain, with the comb wires on his shoulder, "What's the matter, soldier? Can't you read your own name?" Like that. Well, young and don't like the army, it kind of scared you. "Yeah, I can read my own name, but it's not here." He says, "Well, why don't you look under the seas once?" So I went down the sea line. Sure enough, there's my bag. So I come back with the bag. "I see you found it." He says, "That's my fault," the captain said. I says, "Oh, okay." And he says, "See here?" On his shoulder, Gack. Same as mine, only I can't remember if the S was out of his name or the E. Anyhow, his name was spelled except in that one letter, same as mine. So we had you got to hurry up all the time, to keep in with the crowd, or you don't know where you're going. So I had to get going. I didn't get a chance to ask him only where he was from. He lived in New York, and I told him I was from Toledo, Ohio. And
Could have been relation.
Yeah. Small world.
yeah.
See, some of them is spelled G-O-C-K, Gackstetter.
Yeah.
It's more German.
True. Oh, that's a good story.
So that's about it.
All righty.
Is that an hour and a
We'll
half?
stop it.